Hey everybody, this is Presto.
CorporalNosaj.
We are the Nintendads, and today we are talking about our Splatoon 3 Splatfest demo first impressions. Um, First off the bat, I had way more fun with this demo than I expected to.
Me too, totally.
We played it, I think we did a stream for about 4 hours, and I came into it expecting it to be Splatoon 2.5, which you'll know if you've heard us ramble on previously about this. But we streamed it for 4 hours straight, and at the end of it, we were very sad to have to turn it off.
After the release of Splatoon 1, there was a lot of hype and excitement around the game, the movement, and the competitive nature of the game. Splatoon 2 came out, and there was a lot of significant changes that gave a lot of players a bad taste in their mouth. And Nintendo knew that they had to make improvements with Splatoon 3. And with the release of this, there was a lot of question about whether or not they would succeed. So this demo helped to answer a lot of those questions and concerns.
And I think the answer is yes. The answer is hell yes, because I have just been chomping at the bit for more.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
have to say, playing the Splatoon 3 demo gave us a lot of excitement. If you rewatch our gameplay footage over on Twitch or on Facebook, you'll see that we really got into it, got really excited, and we felt the competitive edge was definitely brought back.
Yeah. So, and let's start. The first major thing that I saw was movement in Splatoon 2. There was a lot of advantage to gunplay, advantage if you had high ground. But Splatoon 3, the movement is back. It felt crisp, it felt fun, it felt smooth. Like Splatoon 1, I feel like you could control your character, you had more options, you moved faster, everything just felt more fluid.
Definitely. You had several opportunities where you were in the paint getting attacked and it felt like you were stuck down like glue, and it almost made trying to escape or using skill to maneuver around your opponent almost impossible.
In Splatoon 2.
In Splatoon 2. In Splatoon 3, I feel like this problem is non existent. While there were opportunities that there were pinch points and you were cornered, I never felt like being attacked stopped my movement.
Yeah, the I like to always say to my friends, it's like you're using ink, but everybody's really using glue in 2. And in 3, that problem seems to have been at least partially alleviated. I also just felt like in 3, I always had an outplay option. If there was a charger and he had the high ground, in 2, I would bark up another tree, but in 3, I felt like there were options to move and sort of outmaneuver him. Uh, and speaking of options, we had some new movement options, which started to grow on me. We had the squid roll, which was where you could instantly change the direction and do a little flippy dippy that had some damage reduction. Did you use this that much?
I was, because it was not a feature of Splatoon 2, I was purely focused on, am I able to survive in my own gameplay the way I did in the previous installments in the series. And Splatoon 3 demo proved to me that without any added features, I could jump into this game and become successful the same way in the same playstyle I did in 1 and in 2. So I didn't try the squid roll because it felt like it was an added feature and an extra button combination that I didn't want to bog myself down with, but I know you tried it out.
Yeah, so I was very excited about Squid Roll. When I was focusing on playing, kind of learning the ins and outs of 3, I didn't use it, but probably towards the second half or the second third, I really started using it and seeing the utility. It was great for changing directions, but unexpectedly, it was really good for tracking enemies because it gave you like a little bit of boost of speed when you change directions. And if you were trying to track an enemy around a corner or somebody that you just caught sight of, you could roll and then fire out of the roll instantly. There's no lag time between when you're rolling and when you want to fire. You can act immediately out of it, which I thought was really cool. The other thing is with the dualies, you can do that roll and combining 2 or 3 rolls, like the dually rolls with the squid roll, like the movement in this game is just getting disgusting, and I've seen other people who did it better than me, and I'm excited to utilize it more.
Swimming in your ink was always the best and fastest way to get around movement, and I feel like that was one of the things that bottlenecked your movement in Splatoon 2. Splatoon 3 has definitely opened up a diversity of movement, which makes your ability to have multiple weapons on your tool belt. I don't mean necessarily weapons, but movement opportunities on your tool belt to maneuver around your opponent and get the edge. And with enough time and enough skill and enough practice, you don't have to feel like you're bottlenecked anymore, which is what I love that they're bringing back to Splatoon 3 that they did in Splatoon 1.
Yeah, the other new movement option was the Squid Surge, which I thought was going to be absolutely useless. It's where you're climbing vertically up a wall, you hold the jump button, it charges, and then you sort of shoot up. And I thought, why would I ever do this? Like, you can, it's not that much faster than just swimming up the wall. But then I started playing the Slosher, and I realized if you got near the top of a wall and you use the surge, it would shoot you up way higher than a normal jump would. And so I would hide on walls, wait for somebody to come, and then squid surge up and use the height advantage to shoot over and down at them. And once I learned that trick, at least with the Slosher, I was using it constantly, especially on the map that we did the Tri-Slosh battles on.
In previous games, the diversity of where you're able to go and how you're able to go prevented a lot of movement. Other than your squid jump and things like the jetpack special, the verticality of the game was very much bottlenecked. This gives you an added aerial attack, which I think is phenomenal. And it's not just a special, it's a movement. So anybody can learn and use this on the battlefield, which is great.
I think it'll be especially useful for quick charging weapons like the Squiffer or the new bow, because you can jump in the air, get a quick charge and a shot off before either landing and keep putting on pressure or dropping back down on that wall and taking a more defensive stance. I think, we'll move on to other sections, but I think overall the pace feels more fluid and faster. 2 felt like it rewarded, I'll say, defensive zone control. 3 feels like it rewards movement and actually playing the game and outplaying your opponent.
Definitely. Totally.
So weapons and specials, and this is sort of a natural transition from movement, because in Splatoon 2, I always played mid to long range support because I didn't feel like getting scrapping with short range weapons because, like I said, once the enemy ink touches you, you're stuck in glue. So I'd always play mid range, try and support. But then 3 came along, and I started playing hella aggressive because I can actually move again. I can actually get hit and still have movement options as opposed to being cemented in the ground. So I played Tri-Slosher for the vast majority, which is a short range sort of area weapon. And I took some names. I melted some faces. I had so much fun just like playing and being creative with the movement.
I have to say, in 2 and in 1, I was very much a roller player, where you have a paint roller and you use your roller to paint the ground, and you've got some slow, heavy hit attacks. Roller always was a type of weapon that you were restricted on what you could do. You were not a first-person shooter. You were not going in there gunning and trying to be the point man. Roller in 2 almost became pointless.
It was like support, or you had to be really sneaky with it and ambush people. And that was basically your only options.
And in 3, I felt like I had so much more movement. I didn't feel like the weapon itself was as heavy. Although in the demo you only had access to the first available roller, but throughout the game's life cycle, they're going to unlock other roller options that you can play and in-game purchases in order to use different weapons with different supports and different speeds and different stats, which I'm very excited about. Also in 2, I played the Octobrush, and while I love the Octobrush as a concept, in 2 the Octobrush did not feel fast enough, and it felt clunky. I felt like I would get around a corner and I wouldn't be able to do enough damage, and I would always end up getting killed. Whereas in 3, the Octobrush came back with force. I was able to do so much more painting, get all over the map. I felt like I had much more distance, and my attacks weren't just air whipping. I actually was able to do damage. And for the first time, I felt like I could run into the front line and actually provide some serious forwarding push and support for Presto over here, who's doing some damage.
Yes, well, and I think the Octobrush and the Tri-Slosher, the weapons that we kind of gravitated to, are a testament not necessarily to those weapons being buffed, but the movement, right? The movement
Yes.
and the fluidity rewards being creative and to some degree being aggressive, which I think is a much needed change, where you can outplay people instead of just outranging and outpositioning them.
The roller very much is a you stay back and you help to paint the field, and maybe you're able to sneak up on somebody and do a tanky move. Whereas the Octobrush, while you can paint, you're also able to do damage. In 2, it didn't feel like there was a good balance within that. In 3, totally different story. If I want to play aggressively with a brush, I now can play aggressively with a brush, and I can feel confident going into it that I'm able to do enough damage fast enough that I could survive a situation. And if I
Yeah.
needed to hang back and paint the ground, I was able to do that with the distance provided by the painting. So I think they definitely did a lot to the weapons and to the movement to make this game so much more balanced.
Yeah. Speaking of the weapons, we had the new Stringer, I think it's called. It's sort of like a bow and arrow that shoots 3 bows. I started with this weapon. Great for mid to long range support. Great for area control. You shoot arrows. If you charge them up all the way, they have a time delay and then they explode. So really good for locking people out of areas. Absolutely about as defenseless as a kitten once you get up close. Like no, like nothing. Hopefully, it gets some kits to balance that out. Like we can get splat bombs or something. But if I was more than like, I don't know what the measurements are, but if I was more than like 3 meters away, let's just use that. I was safe and comfortable, but as soon as people got within like close range of me, I was cooked. I was turning tail and running.
So everybody knows a sniper rifle usually is used at a long range distance. You rely on the terrain, your elevation, and your opponents or your teammates to provide you with cover and support. This weapon felt very much like that, just at a faster pace. And if you were able to get yourself in position on the map and where you found yourself on the map, this weapon can be pretty deadly. There were a couple
Very
times
impressive.
you and I were pushed back and we were forced to change tactics in order to overcome somebody in a good spot.
Yeah, yeah. The high ground, open field Stringer is a good combination. Pretty much the exact opposite, which I guess was intentional, was the Splatana, which is a sword weapon, which is actually pretty effective at mid range. Definitely a fun weapon to charge, sneak up on people, and just gank them in one shot.
If you
Um,
are able to get a good team, a team of 4, somebody with like a paintbrush, somebody with the tribow, somebody with the splatana, and somebody with like the air sprayer, and you can have a very aggressive force moving forward, I feel like you could dominate the field with a good combination of weapons.
Yeah, I feel like the Splatana and the Tri-Slinger bow are going to be really good paired up together in ranked specifically, because
Mm-hmm.
then it's not just flying all over the place. There's a single point of control in most cases, like with tower control and splat zones, where it's going to be you have range support, area denial, and then up close shreddability. Speaking of shreddability, the new specials are bananas. They were wild. I actually didn't even get to try out all of them because I stuck to the ones that I really liked. I know you tried out the Spider-Man one,
So
right?
as the Octobrush, you have an option when you get your special. You're able to create an anchor point and then use a string of ink to get to a high point. Use the string of ink again to get to another high point. Attack from that position, and once your timer runs out, you are pulled back to your anchor point. And while that was extremely useful, I found using the anchor point alone was so much useful. I could use my special in different ways, not just the way that they intended it to be used, and always be able to bring myself back to a point of safety. I could get in deep and then come back to my home base pretty quickly.
Yeah, all the specials felt good. I really liked the Stingray 5.1, which I don't think most people realize is 5.1 is not just a random number. 5.1 is Dolby 5.1 surround sound, because in the initial one, the Stingray was a giant speaker that you put on the ground, it blasted. This is an array of 5 little speakers that shoot lasers, so it's like a little Easter egg
Audio
slash
nod
audio nod to like 5.1 surround sound. I thought that was clever,
for
and
all
it's
of you
very, very impressive.
for all of you sound nerds who are out there.
Yeah. Um, lobbies were something else that was a pleasant surprise. They're not perfect, but man, have they come a long way
So much better. The biggest change is you are now able to find and play with your friends easily. You can create a group team. You can join each other so much easier than in Splatoon 2, I think. And the lobby is a training lobby. So while you're waiting to be queued up, you and your friends can hang around in the training lobby and do things, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think there were a couple issues with disconnections. There were a couple issues where if somebody backed out, or like the leader backed out and everyone else didn't, people got stuck into playing matches. But it's a test, right? It's practically
this is a demo. The game isn't even released. And honestly, things like that, if one player backs out, the rest of the party continues to move forward, is a type of mechanic that we see in other games. So it's something that I kind of expected was going to happen. It wasn't a huge thing.
I think those wrinkles will get ironed out. Next section is maps. Maps were, I think, map design and them changing existing maps, because there were existing maps in this that were modified to better suit sort of the pace and points of Splatoon 3. I found maps to be narrower and less spread out, but longer, because a huge point in Splatoon 2 that became a problem was spawn camping. You get bottlenecked into your spawn, and that was the game. In this, I felt like when we broke through and we got into the enemy spawn, it was a big deal. It happened a couple times. It was a strategic thing. It wasn't the only strategy we were going for, but it felt good, and it felt like a lot of effort to get there. Like, they were long. There's decided choke points. I think the map design, and we'll see as time goes on, I think the map design is funneling more people into choke points and having it less spread out, because in 2, I always felt like I was dying without my teammates, probably because I have no map awareness. But in 3, I felt like there were more team fights. The maps were just generally better designed and facilitating teamwork and not just chaos.
In Splatoon 2, I truly felt like it was geared towards killing. If you were able to kill more of your opponent, you had the ability to control the map and win the game. Splatoon 3, the map was laid out more of in a manner where painting is just as important. And if, like Presto saying, not being aware of your map awareness, there can be whole areas of the map that are just left unpainted. For somebody like me who loves to paint, I will sneak in behind you and paint the entire back left side of your area without you ever knowing. And I've just won the game, and I didn't kill a single person.
Yeah, I feel like our play styles really complement each other, zone control, and then you would cover all the spots. Something else with the map design, there's a new mechanic. If an entire team is killed at the same time, it says wipeout, and whether it's your team getting wiped out or the enemy team, you get a notification that says wipeout. And I felt like that the first time it happened, I was like, oh, this is a cool thing. Probably not going to see this again for a while, because all four people on the team dying at the same time was pretty rare in 2 outside of ranked. But it happened a lot in Turf Wars. And I think that is a testament to the map design, in that the maps are designed to facilitate team fights at choke points, which feels good. It just feels like a team shooter without you really having to make a conscious effort.
And so while those
wipeouts were a subtle improvement on map design.
And while those choke points are extremely important because that's where the heat of the battle is going to be, map awareness still provides some opportunities for you to sneak in behind your opponent if you're able to find those alleys. So
yes, there were flanks. There were
yes,
absolutely flanks, but your whole team couldn't take a flank.
no,
Like I don't know how to describe it. If you just look at some of the maps in Splatoon 3 and you look at them from 2 and even 1, like you'll just see by the shape and the size of the maps that there's a different emphasis in Splatoon 3, and I don't quite know what that is. I think I know what it is. I'm making some generalizations, but I think what they're doing works really well from the 4 hours that I've played. And when we did play, it was Splatfest. So we did Turf War and we did the new tri-color thing, which I think we were kind of hesitant to try out.
Dad joke.
But then once we tried it, we were hooked.
Squid joke.
We did not stop playing. I can't stop.
So the tricolor turf war kind of a thing is you get one team who's got 4 players, and they are the team who has the most amount of wins from previous games. And then you've got one team of 2 and another team of 2. And those 2 teams of 2, one would be yellow, one would be red, and then the team in the center would be blue, or whatever the combination is. And the 2 teams of 2 had to not only compete against each other, but they also were competing with each other to defeat the red team, the team in the center, which provided a lot of good fun. But man, the amount of people you could go against, because many times Presto and I together go in as a duo, and we felt like we were going up against 6 people because the other team wasn't working well with us, and we would still come out on top. I felt like we dominated that.
Yeah, we did. I really like the dynamic of playing with one other person, because I felt like the communication and the strategy of what we were doing was easier than with 4 people. So maybe that's a good way to like ease into like communicating for a full team. But I felt bad. They're going to have to tweak it so that the team in the middle with 4 people, it sounds like, oh, they have 4 people and you guys only have 2 and you guys only have 2 and you can kill each other. It sounds like the people in the middle with 4 people have an advantage. But man, they maybe scraped by with 2 wins all night when we were playing. Red team got absolutely caught between a rock and a hard place, and I think they're going to have to balance that a little bit. I don't know how, but they're going to have to do something, because Scissor got, I mean, in the final results, it was Team Paper number 1 with like 25 points, or no, Team Rock with 25 points, Paper with 15 points, Scissors with 0. And I think a big result of that was the tricolor of them just getting absolutely flexed on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's our thoughts. Fast and fluid. New weapons are fun. New specials are fun. New lobby works well. Movement is the name of the game.
Yes.
Are you buying this or are you denying this?
So I'll be honest with you. Splatoon 2, I purchased so I could play with my friends. Splatoon 3, I'm going to just buy because it was a lot of fun.
Yes. Splatoon 3, it's so my most anticipated games of the year were Sunbreak and Splatoon 3. I started to get pretty worried about a month ago. I remember calling you and saying, this is out of the blue, but I'm really worried about Splatoon 3. I haven't heard from them in a while, and I want to make sure they're okay. And because we didn't have anything.
Yep.
And then we got the Direct, which had a bucket of information. You can check one of our previous episodes for all our thoughts on that. But this demo, for the only information in the past year that has solidified that Splatoon 3 is very likely to be very, very awesome. And we're going in full steam. If you want to play with us, we are starting a little crew on our Discord. We have a lot of people who are joining as active Splatoon 2 players that are looking forward to Splatoon 3. You can find an invitation to our Discord in the description below. I always wanted to say that.
Honestly, obviously, we're going to be streaming this game a lot, so find us on Twitch or Facebook Gaming so you can watch our live streams. We do a twice a month audio podcast where we break down games that are coming out, do reviews and gaming news. So find us in all the places Spotify is listed, or podcasts are listed, so that you can hear our opinions. Find us in the Discord and join in the Splatfests and the painting, and we'll see you guys next time.
We'll see you in the ink.
In the ink.
Stay fresh.
Get inked.